Hey everybody, it's Scott once again for Wrestle Beat here on the YouTube channel. Supreme Wrestling Entertainment, that's where we've been all night long grabbing these interviews. And I'm joined by Superstar Stevie Stardom. And one thing I want to ask you, first of all, how long have you been in the business?
February 2nd of the upcoming year, 2013, will be 21 years.
21 years in the business. I assume you've wrestled all over the country?
I've wrestled all over.
Wrestled all different kinds of styles, all different kinds of guys.
Everything.
What is it that's closest to home for you? Where do you like working after all this time?
Well, you know, I mean, I started in Minneapolis.
Trained with who?
Eddie Sharkey and Ken Patera trained.
That looks good on the resume.
For 2 years straight. That was a 2-year split camp. Eddie Sharkey trained for 1 year. Then when you were done at Eddie's and you passed it, then you went to Ken Patera's for 1 year. You learned different aspects of the business from both gentlemen. You kind of learned the complete package of things, basically.
So you started out what was your first match?
Gentleman by the name of Dr. Darren Davis was my first match. And I was managed by Sticks and Mogul, the High Rollers. They were my first managers that night. And I, in actuality, was not supposed to wrestle Darren Davis that night, but a turn of events kind of occurred that I got kind of thrown into that spot. So that's kind of how that happened. But Minneapolis has brought me a lot of good matches. I had my very first 1-hour draw with Sean Waltman, X-Pac at First Avenue up there. And this was after about only 6 months in business. This was after, and actually I had known Sean previous to that. Many years before that I met him, and he was coming off his first neck injury, broken neck that he'd had, and he was going to re-sign the WWE contract, and wanted a refresher match, and Eddie trained him, had a lot to do with his training, so he came there, and I just happened to be there. I'd been working about wrestling and training about 6 months. You know, again, not patting myself in the back or anything, but I progressed much quicker than the rest of our camp, and Eddie thought I would be a good fit for him to get a little ring rust off and have a refresher match before he re-signed his contract, and we did the 1-hour Broadway up at First Ave. So.
Now, I mean, was this wrestling something you wanted to get into from the get-go, or is this something you just happened onto? And if it was something you wanted to do from the get-go, what was it? Who was it that made you want to do it?
My dad has been following wrestling since 1937. My dad's first match when he was 10, he saw the main event was Farmer Don Marlin and Big Ike Eakins against Tiny and Al Mills in the main event. And I actually got the pleasure of meeting Tiny Mills before he passed away, actually. I'm a 4-time state wrestler from Wisconsin. I was drafted by Minnesota State to wrestle for 2 years on a scholarship for them, so I do know Shelton Benjamin, I do know Brock Lesnar, guys like that. Yeah, I started wrestling when I was 4 years old, so half of my life I've wrestled amateur, the other half I've wrestled professionally.
And here we are, 21 years after being in the business. Now, we want to encourage people to come out to SupremeWrestlingEntertainment.com and check out guys like it. But for those of them out there who are unindoctrinated to you, where can they follow you on the web?
Well, you can follow me on Supreme Championship Wrestling. You can go to Old School Championship Wrestling out of Minneapolis. You can go to Elite Pro Wrestling out of Wisconsin. You can just simply go on my website on the internet, on Facebook. Follow me. YouTube, you can see dozens of my matches on YouTube with different federations. A lot of my matches I have privately. I mean, the advantage that I have over a lot of the guys, obviously, is I've been around a long time. Obviously, my training is an advantage. The other advantage I have is I have wrestled some, I guess. Well, you know, the fine lines are always drawn as far as who's a veteran, who isn't a veteran, or, you know, who big names are. I guess big name is a guy that's had a lot of TV exposure, has wrestled for, I guess, what they call the big leagues of wrestling, the AWA, the WWE, WCW, NWA, Mid-Atlantic, wherever it may be. It's too bad we don't have them territories anymore. I agree. Now, I'm going to make something very, very clear. And this is my mindset, and I don't care who likes it or who doesn't like it. There are two types of people in this business. There's sports entertainers and there are professional wrestlers. Do not ever make the mistake of calling me a sports entertainer, because I'm going to tell you that's an insult to me. And I will take it personally. I am not a sports entertainer. I am a professional wrestler. 1905, Hackenschmidt, Stecker, Gotch, Londos, Orville Brown, Caddick, these guys were pro wrestlers. Strangler Lewis, these were pro wrestlers. The marquee back then said professional wrestling. It did not say sports entertainment.
And 107 years later, we find another great professional wrestler here in Superstar Stevie Stardom. Thanks for joining us so much, man. Pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure. Anytime.
Good. Sorry, man.